there's been some reporting that the NFL and the NFL Players Association are at odds over whether or not players who test positive for the virus will be on injured reserve or the non-football illness list. Now, the non-football illness list, if you put a player on that during the season, they're done for the year, and they potentially, if the team chooses not to pay them, don't get another penny. As of last night, ESPN was reporting that that's still a sticking point. I had other people saying it's not a sticking point. We have a deal on what it's going to be. My understanding, and this is all subject to league approval, but the deal between the league and the union will allow players to be placed on a short-term COVID-19 IR list. And then they come off of that list and go back to the roster. And while they are on that list, they will be replaced on the roster by someone else. The goal is to ensure that you have as many healthy bodies as possible. You have maximum flexibility. Now, the way it was explained to me, 3 weeks on the COVID-19 list, then you can return to practice. And once you get to the point where you can return to practice, you've got a 3-week window to get back to the active roster. At the end of that 3 weeks, it's either active roster, injured reserve, or injury settlement, and the player leaves the team. I've heard some concerns from the player's perspective about why do you have to be shut down for 3 weeks on the front end? What if you're asymptomatic? What if within 5 days you can generate 2 negative tests? Why should you be kept off of the roster for 3 whole weeks simply because you tested positive and you have no symptoms? So there may be some lingering push and pull on the contours of the COVID-19 IR list. And frankly, if you're the team, why do you want to have your guys set aside for a minimum of 3 weeks? That doesn't make any sense if there is a way they can get back sooner than that. But that's where it currently stands. We'll see how that plays out. But the teams are not going to do anything to have rules that are so rigid that the players get screwed, because it's not their fault if they test positive. And you're never going to be able to prove that it didn't happen at work. So the players get paid whatever the final rules are. And the final rules will encourage the ability for teams to have as many players available as possible. You want to be able to withstand an outbreak. You want to be able to plug in other players. And you don't want a situation where your players who have tested positive are still taking up roster spots that could be devoted to players who are negative for the virus and who could come in even if they're only there for a couple of weeks. And I think we'll also see some flexibility on the moves that are made on the practice squad. Already for this year, you can move guys, 2 of them, up and down without passing them through waivers. I suspect that maybe more guys from the practice squad will be eligible to go up to the active roster and then back down in the event of a COVID-19 positive designation without passing through waivers and giving another team a chance to pounce on a guy who goes from the active roster back to the practice squad. So, look, they get this all figured out if they want training camp to open. A lot of people are saying it really doesn't make sense to open training camp right now, especially in the cities that are in the midst of the greatest rate of increased cases, like Houston, like Dallas, like Miami, like LA. Whatever the final decision, we are at the point where decisions need to be made. And I'd say by this time tomorrow, when we do Friday's PFTPM, we should be at a point where we have a pretty good idea of what the rules are and what the rules aren't. So teams either will or won't be proceeding with training camp. And I will not be surprised if the end result is they decide to get rid of the preseason and bump everything back a couple of weeks and give everyone a chance to really prepare for what's to come. Because once they're there, they're there. You don't want to start it up and then shut it down. You want to wait until the point where you're confident you can get it rolling and it's going to work right. And if you rush, and this was the sentiment that J.J. Watt shared with us last week, if you rush when you shouldn't, you may have the season collapse when it otherwise. We'll see how it all plays out. We're hoping for football season. Again, addressing the various hurdles the NFL faces does not in any way mean we are rooting against it. Why in the hell, and I almost said a word stronger than hell, would we root against it? We want football. We can't wait for football, and hopefully football will find a way to coexist with a pandemic that has gotten worse instead of better, because there are too many stupid, selfish people out there who have failed to take this seriously, who have failed to do what they need to do. And those are going to be the people, as I said yesterday, who are complaining the most if there's no football. Let's all resolve to do what we need to do. Let's wear a mask. Let's stay home when we need to. Let's find a way to do the things that need to be done in the safest way possible. and let's hope that it's not too late to salvage football season.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.